The rejection ceremony was supposed to end with me on my knees, broken and silent. Instead, I stood before the Alpha King with a signed contract in one hand and his deepest secret in the other, my voice cutting through the sacred hall like silver through flesh. You will choose me as your Luna, or I will destroy everything you've built. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 hours earlier, I'd been the one on my knees, scrubbing wine stains from marble floors while the pack celebrated above me. Elara. Marcus's voice froze my blood before I even looked up. My fated mate stood at the top of the stairs in his ceremonial beta robes, backlit by chandeliers, looking like every dream I'd foolishly allowed myself to have. Come here. I rose on shaking legs, aware of the sudden silence spreading through the harvest moon gathering. Wolves parted as I climbed the steps, their whispers following me like ghosts. The Omega. Marcus's mate? Impossible. Marcus waited until I stood before him, until every eye in the hall fixed on us, before he spoke again. I, Marcus Vale, Beta of the Blackthorn Pack, reject you, Elara Thorn, as my mate and my equal. The words hit like claws to the chest. The mate bond, already weak from months of his avoidance, shattered. I gasped, doubling over as pain lanced through me. She's Omega, Marcus continued, his voice carrying to every corner. Weak blood. No wolf. She would shame my line and weaken our pack. He turned to Alpha King Cade Blackthorn, who watched from his throne with cold, dark eyes. I ask your blessing to choose another, my king. Cade's gaze swept over me with less interest than he'd give a chair. Granted. Remove her from the hall. Hands grabbed my arms. They dragged me toward the servants' entrance while Marcus already turned to Lilith Crane, a strong she-wolf warrior, pulling her into his arms. The pack cheered. They threw me into the corridor and slammed the door. I lay there on cold stone, listening to celebration on the other side, and felt something inside me change. Not break, I'd been broken before. This was different. This was calcification. Rage crystallizing into purpose. I'd spent 5 years as an invisible servant in this castle. 5 years watching, listening, filing away secrets while they looked through me like glass. They thought weakness meant blindness. They were wrong. I pushed myself up and walked, not to my quarters in the basement, but to the North Tower. To the archives where I discovered the truth 6 months ago while organizing old pack records. The records that proved Alpha King Cade Blackthorn's entire reign was built on a lie. My hands didn't shake as I removed the leather folder from its hiding place behind genealogy texts. Inside, correspondence between Cade's father and the Shadow Ridge Pack. Contracts signed in blood. Promises of territory, our territory, in exchange for dark magic that turned the tide of the Great War 20 years ago. Magic that was forbidden by wolf law. Magic that would make Cade's rule illegitimate. Magic that would destroy everything. I'd kept this secret, telling myself I'd never use it. That I wasn't that person. Tonight, Marcus had made me that person. I tucked the folder under my cloak and made my way to the Alpha's private wing. Guards stood at attention, unseeing. I was staff. Furniture. Delivery for the king, I murmured, holding up a wine bottle I'd snatched from a passing tray. They waved me through. The study door was ajar. I heard voices, Cade's deep rumble and a woman's lighter tone. Seraphina Nightshade, the elegant Alpha daughter from the Eastern Territory. His chosen mate. The woman everyone expected him to announce as his Luna tonight. I pushed the door open and walked in. Cade looked up from the documents spread across his desk, irritation flashing across his sharp features. He was brutally handsome in the way of apex predators. All angles and controlled violence, dark hair and darker eyes that held no mercy. What, he started. You will choose me as your Luna, I said clearly, or I will destroy everything you've built. Silence crashed through the room. Seraphina, draped in silver silk on the leather couch, laughed. Cade, darling, did this Omega just threaten you? But Cade wasn't laughing. He'd gone very still, his gaze locked on the folder in my hand. His nostrils flared, scenting the age of the leather, the blood ink inside. "Everyone out," he said quietly. "Cade," Seraphina began. "Out." The guards fled. Seraphina rose, fury in her eyes, but Cade's command rolled through the room with alpha power. She left, slamming the door behind her. We stared at each other across 10 feet of expensive carpet. "You have no idea what you're doing," Cade said, his voice soft and deadly. I walked forward and placed the folder on his desk. Blood packed with Shadow Ridge. Territory promises in exchange for dark magic. Your father's signature. If this reaches the council, they'll strip your title and probably execute you for the crimes of your bloodline. His jaw clenched. Where did you find this? Does it matter? I met his eyes, refusing to cower. I found it. I have copies hidden where you'll never reach them. And if anything happens to me, they'll be released automatically. A lie, but a good one. Cade moved around the desk with predatory grace. And what exactly do you want, little Omega? Money? Territory? You think you can blackmail an Alpha King? I want status. My voice steadied as I spoke my truth. I want protection. I want to never be thrown away again. There are easier ways to gain status than threatening me. Not for me. I'm Omega. Mateless now. Worthless. The words tasted like ash. But there's an old law, isn't there? Pack law from the first tribes. Bonding by choice. Any wolf can challenge for a position through chosen bond, regardless of rank. His eyes narrowed. You've done your research. I've had nothing but time. I lifted my chin. Choose me publicly as a mate candidate for Luna. 3 months, as the law allows. Give me status and protection, let me live as your chosen rather than your slave. After 3 months, if no bond forms, we part ways and I return the documents. And if I refuse? Then tomorrow morning, copies of these will reach the council, the Shadow Ridge Pack, and every major pack in the kingdom. I smiled without humor. Your choice, Alpha King. Your pride or your throne. Rage flashed through his eyes, pure and hot. His hand shot out, wrapping around my throat, slamming me back against the wall. His face was inches from mine, fangs descended, eyes bleeding gold. You dare. Then his skin touched mine, and the world exploded. Fire. Recognition. A bond snapping into place with enough force to steal my breath. Not the weak, tentative thing I'd felt with Marcus. This was a hurricane, a wildfire, an avalanche. The mate bond in its truest, most terrifying form. Cade jerked back as if burned, staring at his hand, then at me. That's impossible, he breathed. I was pressed against the wall, gasping, feeling the bonds settle into my chest like a living thing. I was already rejected. You shouldn't have a mate bond left. His voice was raw. Marcus severed it. Then what is this? I whispered. We stared at each other, both shaking now. The air between us crackled with energy, with recognition, with something that shouldn't exist. The door burst open. Seraphina stood in the doorway, 2 guards behind her, her face twisted with fury. She took in the scene, Cade standing over me, his hands still raised, my throat red from his grip, both of us breathing hard. What, she said icily, is happening here? Cade's expression shifted, became unreadable. He looked at me, at the folder on his desk, at Seraphina. I watched him calculate odds, measure risks, balance the impossible situation I'd forced upon him. When he spoke, his voice carried alpha command, binding as law. Seraphina, council members, guards, bear witness. He never looked away from me. I, Cade Blackthorn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, invoke the law of bonding by choice. I name Alara Thorn as mate candidate for the position of Luna. 3 months trial as tradition demands. Seraphina's face went white. Cade, you can't be serious. The Omega has invoked her rights under pack law, Cade continued, each word sharp as a blade. I cannot refuse without cause. The cause is that she's Omega. Seraphina shrieked. She's nothing. She has no wolf. Nevertheless. Cade finally turned to her, and something in his expression made her step back. The law is clear. She will be given quarters in the family wing, status as my chosen, and protection under my name. Anyone who harms her answers to me personally. He looked back at me, and the mate bond between us hummed with dangerous promise. Congratulations, Elara Thorne. You're going to regret this. I straightened, ignoring the pain in my throat, the shock still coursing through my veins. I met his dark gaze with all the fury and fear and desperate courage I possessed. So will you, Alpha King. So will you. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The family wing of Blackthorn Castle smelled like power, leather, pine, and the distinctive musk of alpha bloodlines. My new quarters were larger than the entire servants' dormitory where I'd slept for 5 years, with a 4-poster bed, a private bath, and windows overlooking the northern mountains. I stood at those windows now, watching dawn break over the territory, and tried to understand how my life had shattered and reformed in the span of a single night. Behind me, servants unpacked clothing I didn't own, formal gowns and training leathers that had appeared with remarkable speed after Cade's announcement. They worked in silence, shooting nervous glances my way, unsure how to treat the Omega who'd somehow become their Alpha King's chosen. I didn't blame them. I didn't know either. The mate bond hummed constantly in my chest now, a golden thread pulling toward wherever Cade was in the castle. It shouldn't exist. Marcus's rejection should have destroyed my ability to bond again. But here it was, vital and insistent, connecting me to the most dangerous wolf in the kingdom. A wolf who hated me for the trap I'd sprung. A sharp knock interrupted my thoughts. The servants scattered as the door opened to reveal a tall woman in council robes, Elder Meredith, the pack's head councilwoman. Her silver hair was pulled back severely, her face carved from disapproval. Miss Thorne. She made my name sound like an insult. The Alpha King requests your presence in the Great Hall. The formal announcement will be made in 1 hour. I'll be ready. Her lip curled. See that you are. And understand this, girl, invoking ancient law doesn't make you worthy. The council has approved the Alpha King's decision to hold a proper Luna selection. You'll compete like any other candidate, and when you fail, you'll be returned to your proper place. She left before I could respond, but her meaning was clear. They would make sure I failed. I turned to the nearest servant, a young woman named Clara who'd always been kind during my years in service. The Luna selection, what is it exactly? Clara's eyes widened. You don't know? Miss, it's ancient tradition. When an alpha can't decide between candidates, the pack holds trials. Contests of strength, wisdom, survival. The she-wolf who proves herself strongest becomes Luna. She hesitated. It hasn't been done in over 60 years. Not since the last time someone questioned an alpha's choice, I finished. They want me dead. Miss. It's fine, Clara. I knew what I was starting. I moved to the wardrobe, examining the clothes. Help me dress. If I'm going to be paraded before the pack, I might as well look the part. An hour later, I stood in the great hall wearing deep emerald silk that Clara had insisted brought out my eyes. My dark hair was pulled back in a simple braid, and I wore no jewelry. I owned none, and refused to borrow what didn't belong to me. The hall was packed. Every wolf in the territory had come to witness this spectacle. Their eyes tracked me as I entered, whispers spreading like wildfire. Omega. Blackmail. Abomination. I kept my spine straight and my eyes forward as I walked toward the raised platform where Cade waited. He wore full ceremonial armor, dark leather and silver that made him look every inch the warrior king. His face was impassive, but I felt the mate bond pull tight between us, felt his awareness of me like heat against my skin. Seraphina stood to his right, radiant in silver and white, her chin lifted in aristocratic disdain. Two other she-wolves flanked them, Aurora Silvermane, a fierce warrior from the western pack, and Isla Nightbrook, a renowned healer and scholar. I took my place at the end of the line, painfully aware of how I didn't belong. They were all highborn, powerful, legitimate. I was the Omega who'd threatened her way here. Cade's voice rang out, commanding silence. Pack members, council elders, honored guests. The position of Luna is the most sacred trust in our kingdom. My chosen mate must be strong enough to stand beside me, wise enough to guide our people, and fierce enough to protect our territory. His dark gaze swept across the four of us. I have narrowed my selection to 4 candidates. As is my right under pack law, I invoke the Luna Trials. These she-wolves will compete in tests of strength, wisdom, and survival. The winner will become my mate and your Luna. The crowd erupted. Cheers for Seraphina, curious murmurs for Aurora and Isla, and hostile whispers for me. Elder Meredith stepped forward, a smile playing at her lips. The trials will begin tomorrow at dawn. First test, the hunt of Darkwood Forest. The candidate who brings back the rarest prey will win the round. But be warned. Her eyes found mine. Darkwood is not forgiving. Wolves have died in those woods. The trials will be overseen by myself and the Pack Council, Cade added. Any interference will be punished by death. His tone made it clear this was directed at everyone, but his gaze lingered on Seraphina's supporters in the crowd. As the crowd dispersed, I felt a hand on my elbow. I turned to find a man who looked like a younger, wilder version of Cade, same dark hair, but longer and unkempt, same strong features, but with a scar cutting through one eyebrow and a dangerous smile that Cade never wore. Damon Blackthorn, he introduced himself. The disappointing younger brother. Walk with me. I glanced toward Cade, but he was surrounded by council members. The mate bond tugged with warning, but something about Damon's expression, calculating, amused, and oddly genuine, made me follow him onto a private balcony. That was quite the performance last night, Damon said, leaning against the railing. I assume you have something on my brother. No one invokes bonding by choice without ammunition. Why would you assume that? Because I've been trying to disrupt Cade's perfectly ordered world for years, and I've never managed what you did in one night. He studied me with unsettling intensity. You're interesting, Alara Thorne. And you've made powerful enemies very quickly. You're here to warn me? I'm here to offer alliance. Damon's smile sharpened. See, I have no interest in the throne, being Alpha King looks exhausting. But I have every interest in watching the council squirm, and they're very invested in making sure you don't survive these trials. What do you want in return? Honest answer? Entertainment. And maybe, if you somehow win, a favor down the line. He pushed off the railing. First trial tomorrow. Darkwood is dangerous enough without Seraphina's people trying to kill you. I'll make sure you have a head start. What you do with it is up to you. He left before I could respond, leaving me alone with the mate bond pulling insistently toward where Cade stood inside, and the growing certainty that I'd stepped into something far more complex than simple blackmail. Dawn came cold and gray. We assembled at the edge of Darkwood Forest, ancient trees that had stood for millennia, their branches thick enough to block out the sun. The Pack Council explained the rules. We had until sunset to hunt and return with our kill. Rarest prey won. Seraphina shifted first, her wolf a stunning silver creature that drew admiring gasps. Aurora's wolf was red gold and battle-scarred, while Isla's was small and swift, built for speed. They all turned to watch me, waiting for my shift. My Omega wolf was pathetic, smaller than even the lowest-ranking pack member, gray and unremarkable, with none of the power or beauty of a true she-wolf. I'd always been ashamed of her, of what she represented. But as I called her forward now, something felt different. The shift came easier, smoother. When I stood on 4 legs, I felt stronger than I remembered. The horn sounded. The others bolted into the forest. I waited, counting to 30 as Damon had quietly suggested during breakfast. Then I followed, taking a different path, using every trick I'd learned from 5 years of being the lowest wolf in the pack: how to move silently, how to mask my scent, how to become invisible. The forest swallowed me whole. I ran for an hour, putting distance between myself and the others, before I caught an unusual scent. Not deer or elk, but something older. Something rare. I followed it deeper into darkwood, into sections I'd heard the older wolves whisper about with fear. The trees here were twisted, wrong, their bark black as coal. The air tasted of old magic. The scent led me to a clearing where a white stag stood, its antlers glowing faintly with ethereal light. A spirit creature, they appeared once in a generation, and killing one was said to bring either great blessing or terrible curse. I circled carefully, my Omega wolf's instinct screaming danger. The stag watched me with 2 knowing eyes. That's when I heard them, wolves moving through the underbrush, surrounding me. 4 of them, all wearing Seraphina's house colors around their necks. Not competing in the trials. Here for me. The largest one shifted, a brutal-looking male named Garrett. Nothing personal, Omega. But you shouldn't have threatened our future Luna. They attacked as one. I ran. 5 years of being hunted, being the lowest, being prey, it had taught me how to survive. I led them on a chase through the twisted forest, using my smaller size to slip through spaces they couldn't follow, doubling back, confusing the trail. But there were 4 of them and 1 of me. Eventually, they cornered me against a ravine, a deadly drop at my back. Garrett shifted to human form, smiling. End of the line, Omega. Something inside me snapped. Not in breaking, but in waking. My wolf surged forward with power I'd never felt before, and suddenly I wasn't weak little Alara Thorn anymore. I was something else, something that had been sleeping. I moved like shadow, faster than I should be able to move. My teeth found Garrett's throat before he could react, not to kill but to warn. The others lunged, but I was already gone, melting into the darkness between trees, actually melting, my body becoming shadow itself. What the hell was happening to me? I materialized behind them, grabbed Garrett's abandoned knife, and put it to his throat as he shifted back. Tell Seraphina that if she wants me dead, she'll have to do it herself. I released him and ran, their shocked howls following me into the forest. My wolf was different now. Faster. Stronger. I could feel shadows calling to me, offering places to hide. And when I accidentally cut my paw on a sharp branch, I watched it heal in seconds, flesh knitting together with impossible speed. Omega wolves didn't have abilities like this. We were the weakest, the smallest, the least. Unless I'd never actually been Omega at all. I found the white stag again as sunset approached. It stood in the same clearing, waiting, and I understood suddenly that it hadn't been there by chance. It had been there for me. I approached slowly, and the stag lowered its head, allowing me to touch its glowing antlers. Power flooded through me, ancient and knowing, and with it came a flash of vision. A woman who looked like me, standing in this same forest centuries ago, her wolf form wreathed in shadow. A title whispered with reverence and fear, Shadow Walker. The first Omega, before Omega meant weak. When it meant different. Rare. Powerful in ways the pack had forgotten. The vision faded. The stag stepped back, inclined its head in what looked like a bow, and disappeared into the trees like mist. I shifted to human form, using the dress I'd tied to my leg, and ran back toward the gathering point with only minutes to spare. The others were already there, their kills laid out before the council. Seraphina had brought down a massive elk. Aurora had a bear. Isla, cleverly, had caught a pair of golden eagles, rare and difficult. I walked into the clearing empty-handed. Seraphina laughed. The Omega couldn't even catch a rabbit. How disappointing. I didn't catch anything, I agreed. Then I held out my hand, palm up, where a single white hair from the spirit stag rested. But I was chosen by something much rarer. The council erupted. Elder Meredith turned to Cade. Impossible. Spirit creatures don't appear to Omegas? I finished coldly. Or to anyone not worthy. I met Cade's eyes across the clearing, felt the mate bond flare between us. I walked with the white stag. It blessed me. You can smell the truth of it on me. And they could. The clearing filled with whispers as wolves scented the undeniable proof of old magic clinging to my skin. Elder Meredith's face turned purple with rage, but even she couldn't deny what every wolf could sense. Through gritted teeth, she announced, Elara Thorne wins the first trial. Seraphina's expression promised murder. That night, I was summoned to Cade's private study. He stood by the window, tension radiating from every line of his body. Explain, he demanded without preamble. 4 of Seraphina's pack members have fresh wounds. Garrett swears you moved like shadow. And you return blessed by a spirit creature that shouldn't acknowledge an Omega's existence. Maybe I'm not what everyone thinks I am. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. I moved closer, drawn by the mate bond despite my better judgment. Did you know? When you touched me last night, when the bond formed, did you know I was different? His jaw clenched. A mate bond shouldn't have formed at all. Marcus's rejection should have destroyed that ability. Unless the bond with Marcus was never real. Never complete. The possibility crystallized as I spoke it. What if I wasn't meant for him? What if? Don't. Cade's voice was rough. Don't make this more complicated than it already is. But it was already complicated. Impossibly so. We stood inches apart, the mate bonds singing between us, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not just anger or resentment. Something deeper, more dangerous. Fear. What are you afraid of? The question escaped before I could stop it. His hand shot out, gripping my arm, not in threat, but in need. You want to know? You want the truth about why those documents terrify me? His voice dropped to a whisper. Because they might prove I'm not my father's son. That everything I am, everything I've built, is a lie. The confession hung between us, raw and devastating. The blood pact, I breathed, understanding dawning. The dark magic wasn't just about the war. It was about. Alarm bells shattered the moment. Cade released me instantly, his body shifting to combat mode as shouting erupted from below. The council chambers, he said. Someone's attacked. We ran together through the castle corridors, following the sounds of chaos. When we burst into the chambers, we found Marcus standing over Elder Meredith's body, her throat torn open, blood pooling beneath her. He looked up, his eyes wild, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of alpha command he shouldn't possess. I made a mistake, Marcus said, his gaze fixed on me. Rejecting you was wrong. I'm here to reclaim what's mine. Behind him, shadows moved, wolves loyal to him, weapons drawn, expressions feral. Cade stepped in front of me, power radiating from him in waves. You dare attack a council elder? Threaten my chosen? Marcus smiled, and it was nothing like the man I'd once thought I loved. This was something else, something darker. You're chosen. She was mine first. And when I learned what she really is, what bloodline runs through her veins, I realized my mistake. He looked at me. You're not Omega, Elara. You're Shadow Walker. The last of a line everyone thought extinct. And with you at my side, I could challenge even a king. The floor dropped out from under me. Marcus knew. But how? Cade growled, a sound that shook the walls. The only thing you'll challenge is the executioner's blade. Will I? Marcus gestured, and his wolves spread out. More than I'd thought. Too many. Because I have information too, Your Majesty. About your father. About the real reason for the blood pact. About what's actually running through your veins. The documents. He knew about the documents. I looked at Cade, at Marcus, at the trap closing around us, and realized with crystal clarity that everything, the trials, the mate bond, the secrets we carried, was about to collide in ways none of us could control. And somewhere in the castle, in the hidden place where I'd stashed the leather folder, evidence of everyone's sins waited to destroy us all. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3. The council chambers became a battlefield in seconds. Cade moved like lightning, intercepting Marcus's wolves before they could reach me. His roar shook the stone walls, pure alpha dominance that should have brought every wolf to their knees. But Marcus's followers didn't submit, they fought back with a ferocity that spoke of dark magic or suicidal loyalty. Get her out. Cade commanded Daemon, who'd appeared in the doorway with his own contingent of guards. But I didn't run. I couldn't. Because as Marcus's wolves attacked, I saw something that made my blood freeze, a symbol burned into their necks, barely visible beneath their fur. The same symbol I'd seen in the Blood Pact documents. Shadow Ridge Pack. Cade! I shouted. They're not just Marcus's wolves, they're... A blade whistled past my ear. I dove behind an overturned table as chaos erupted. Through the mess of fighting wolves and spraying blood, I saw Marcus smile at me one last time before melting into the shadows, literally melting, his body becoming darkness itself. Just like I had in the forest. Impossible, I breathed. Shadow walking was my bloodline's gift. How could Marcus move? Daemon hauled me up by my arm, dragging me through a side door as Cade's guards overwhelmed the remaining attackers. We ran through servant passages I knew by heart, taking turns that would confuse any pursuer. Finally, we burst into the castle library, and Daemon barred the door behind us. He was breathing hard, his scar standing out white against his flushed skin. What the hell was that? He demanded. Marcus shouldn't have that kind of power. And those wolves, did you see their eyes? That wasn't natural. The symbol, I gasped, still catching my breath. On their necks. It matches the documents I found. Shadow Ridge Pack made a blood pact with Cade's father, but it wasn't just about winning the war. My mind raced, pieces clicking together. Marcus knew about my bloodline. He called me Shadow Walker. But he has the same ability. Which means Shadow Ridge Pack has Shadow Walkers of their own, Daemon finished grimly. And if they made a blood pact with our pack, they wanted something more than territory. I moved to the library's restricted section, where I'd spent countless hours during my servant years. My hands found the genealogy texts I needed, ancient records that predated the Great War. Help me, I told Daemon. We need to find anything about Shadow Ridge Pack's bloodlines. And anything about... I hesitated. About Cade's mother. Daemon's expression shuddered. Why his mother? Because Marcus said something about what's running through Cade's veins. And last night, Cade told me he fears he's not his father's true son. I met Daemon's eyes. You're his brother. You would have been young when he was born, but you might remember things. Was there ever any question about... My mother, Daemon said quietly, was the most beautiful woman I've ever known. She was also the most unhappy. He moved to the windows, staring out at the moonlit grounds. My father, our father, Alaric Blackthorn, was a hard man. Brutal. He wanted heirs who were perfect weapons, and he didn't care what it cost. He turned back to me. The year before Cade was born, there was a rogue alpha. Fierce, powerful, everything my father wasn't. He came seeking alliance, but my father refused. The rogue left, but... Daemon's jaw clenched. My mother was different after that. Quieter. And then she was pregnant with Cade. My father never questioned it, but I was 8 years old, and I remember how she would stare out the windows some nights, as if waiting for someone who never came. My heart pounded. Do you know the rogue's name? Theron Nightshade. The name hit me like a physical blow. Nightshade. Like Seraphina. Her uncle, Damon confirmed. Which makes this whole situation even more tangled. If Cade is actually Theron's son, then he and Seraphina might be cousins. I pressed my hands to my temples. And if the council discovers this, they won't just strip his title. They'll execute him for fraud. For 20 years of illegitimate rule. Now you understand why he's so desperate to keep those documents hidden. Damon moved closer. And why you have more power over him than anyone realizes. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Before I could answer, the library doors burst open. Cade strode in, covered in blood that wasn't his own, his eyes blazing gold with residual alpha power. He took in the scene, me and Damon standing close, surrounded by genealogy texts, and his expression darkened. Everyone out, he commanded. Damon squeezed my shoulder once, a gesture of support, then left. The door closed behind him with ominous finality. Cade stalked toward me, and I forced myself not to retreat. The mate bond pulled taut between us, singing with tension and something deeper, something that made my skin flush with heat despite the danger crackling in the air. Marcus escaped, he said flatly. Along with half his wolves. Elder Meredith is dead. The council is in chaos. And I find you here, digging into my family history with my brother. He stopped inches away. Tell me, Elara, how much of this did you plan? None of it, I shot back. I didn't know Marcus would attack. I didn't know about your mother or Theron Nightshade or any of this until tonight. But you're learning fast, aren't you? His hand shot out, gripping my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. What else have you discovered in your years of invisible servitude? The touch sent electricity racing through me. The mate bond flared, and I saw him feel it too, saw the moment his anger shifted into something more dangerous. I've discovered, I said quietly, that you're more afraid of what you are than what your father did. I've discovered that you hate feeling out of control, and I'm the thing you can't control. And I've discovered that this. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling his heart race, terrifies you more than any secret I could expose. His pupils dilated. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I leaned closer, reckless with adrenaline and the intoxicating pull of the bond. You could have let Damon take me away tonight. Could have let Marcus's wolves kill me and solve all your problems. But you didn't. You protected me. Your wolf chose me over strategy. My wolf, he said roughly, is an idiot with no sense of self-preservation. Or maybe, I whispered, your wolf knows something you won't admit. For a heartbeat, we stayed frozen, the air between us charged with possibility. Then Cade released me abruptly and stepped back, his expression shuddering. The grand ball is tomorrow night, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Part of the Luna trials. All 4 candidates will attend, and the pack will judge your grace, your poise, your ability to represent the crown. His eyes met mine. Seraphina will be in her element. You'll be a servant playing dress-up. Try not to embarrass yourself. The words were meant to wound, but I heard the warning underneath. He was telling me to be careful, to watch my back. I'll do my best, Your Majesty, I said with equal formality. He left without another word, but the mate bond hummed with everything we hadn't said. Clara woke me before dawn, her face pinched with worry. Miss Elara, you need to see this. She led me to my wardrobe, where my gown for tonight's ball hung, a stunning creation of midnight blue silk and silver embroidery that had arrived yesterday from the royal seamstress. Someone had shredded it to ribbons. It was fine when I checked last night, Clara said. Someone got in here while you slept and, she paled. Miss, they could have killed you. But they hadn't. They'd send a message instead. You don't belong here. Can it be repaired? I asked. Clara shook her head miserably. Not in time. And the seamstress is already working on gowns for the other candidates. Miss Elara, without proper attire, you'll be barred from the ball, which means you forfeit this trial. which would leave me with 1 win and 3 losses to go. Not good odds. I thought of my mother's trunk, the one possession I'd kept from my childhood. I'd never opened it after she died, couldn't bear to face those memories. But now. Clara, help me with something. We retrieved the trunk from storage. Inside, beneath folded linens and dried herbs, I found it, my mother's dress. Deep emerald velvet with gold threading, old-fashioned but exquisitely made. The dress of an alpha's daughter, though I'd never understood that as a child. It's beautiful, Clara breathed. But miss, it's so old-fashioned. At a formal ball with all the high-ranking families. Then I'll stand out, I said firmly. Help me alter it to fit. We worked all day, taking in seams, updating the neckline, adding delicate beadwork from my ruined gown. When we finished at sunset, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. The dress transformed me. I looked like someone who belonged in ballrooms, someone with history and dignity. I looked like my mother, who I suddenly realized had been beautiful in ways I'd forgotten. Who had she really been? Not the broken Omega who died when I was 10. Someone else. Someone important enough that her daughter needed to be hidden. I was beginning to understand just how much had been hidden from me. The grand ballroom glittered with 1,000 candles and the finest of packed society. I entered alone, and conversation stuttered to silence as wolves turned to stare. Serafina stood beside Cade at the head of the room, resplendent in white and silver, looking every inch the future Luna. But Cade's eyes found me across the ballroom, and something flickered in their depths, surprise, approval, and that dangerous heat that made the mate bond sing. Elder Thaddeus, who'd taken charge after Meredith's death, announced the trial. Each candidate will dance with our Alpha King. The pack will observe your grace, your compatibility, your worthiness to stand at his side. Serafina went first, and of course she was perfect. They moved together like they'd been born to it, her silver dress flowing, her smile radiant. The pack murmured approval. Aurora and Isla followed, each competent but lacking that indefinable spark. Then it was my turn. I crossed the ballroom floor, acutely aware of every eye on me, every whispered comment. Cade met me in the center, offering his hand with formal precision. The moment our skin touched, the mate bond exploded between us. The orchestra began a waltz, and Cade pulled me into position. His hand at my waist burned through the velvet, and I struggled to remember the steps I'd learned by watching from the servants' gallery. Relax, he murmured. You're stiff as a board. I'm trying not to fall. Then let me lead. His grip tightened, pulling me closer than was strictly proper. And breathe. You look terrified. I am terrified. Every wolf here wants me dead. Not every wolf. His dark eyes captured mine. Some of us are just confused as hell about why you exist. We spun through the dance, and gradually, I stopped counting steps. The mate bond guided me, let me anticipate his movements, match his rhythm. We moved together like we'd done this 1,000 times. That dress, Cade said quietly. It's not new. It was my mother's. His eyes sharpened. Your mother had expensive taste for an Omega. Maybe she wasn't always Omega. I met his gaze steadily. Maybe neither was I. The music swelled around us, and we turned faster, closer, until I could feel his heartbeat against my chest, until the entire ballroom faded away and there was only this, the two of us, circling, burning, bound together by something neither of us wanted but couldn't deny. Tell me, Cade whispered against my ear, his breath hot on my skin. Tell me what you've discovered about yourself. Because whatever you are, it's driving my wolf insane. I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'm starting to think we're more alike than different. Both hiding what we are. Both terrified someone will see the truth. His hand flexed on my waist. And what's my truth, little Omega? That you're not your father's son. That you're more than you think you are, not less. I looked up at him. And that you want me, even though it ruins every plan you've ever made. His eyes flashed gold. Careful. That sounds like a confession. Maybe it is. The music ended. We stood locked together for a heartbeat too long before Cade released me and stepped back, his expression carefully blank. But the pack had seen. They'd witnessed the chemistry between us, the undeniable connection. As I returned to my place, I caught Serafina's expression, pure, venomous hatred. And beside her, a servant approached with a tray of wine glasses. For the candidates, the servant announced. To honor your performance. The glasses were distributed. Serafina took hers with a smile. Aurora and Isla accepted theirs politely. When the servant reached me, I took the final glass, noting how his hand trembled slightly. I raised the wine to my lips, and Cade's hand shot out, knocking the glass from my grasp. It shattered on the marble floor, dark liquid spreading like blood. The ballroom froze. Cade's eyes had gone fully gold, his alpha power radiating through the room. He grabbed the servant by the throat. Who gave you this tray? The servant stammered, terrified. The kitchen's, Alpha, I just. But Cade wasn't listening. He'd already scented what his wolf had detected, poison in the wine, subtle enough to seem like natural illness but deadly enough to kill within hours. His gaze swung to Serafina, whose face had gone carefully neutral. You dare. I don't know what you're talking about, she said smoothly. Perhaps someone in the kitchen's made an error. Enough. Cade's voice carried absolute command. Guards, take Lady Serafina to her quarters. She's removed from the trial's pending investigation. Chaos erupted. Serafina's family protested. The council members argued. But Cade's word was law, and his wolf had made a choice. He'd chosen to protect me over political alliance. As guards escorted a furious Serafina away, the ballroom doors opened. An ancient woman entered, bent with age but radiating power. The Oracle, I'd heard of her but never seen her. She appeared only for the most important prophecies. Every wolf fell silent. The Oracle's milky eyes swept the room before fixing on the remaining candidates. When she spoke, her voice echoed with otherworldly resonance. The true Luna carries the blood of both light and shadow. She walks between worlds, bridges ancient feuds, and brings either salvation or destruction. The Oracle's gaze moved between me and Serafina with eerie precision. Two bloodlines, one destiny. Before the snow falls, the truth will be revealed, and the king must choose between his crown and his heart. She collapsed. Healers rushed forward, but I barely noticed. Because at that moment, Damon appeared at my elbow, his expression urgent. We need to talk, he whispered. Now. I found something in the archives. About your mother. He pulled me from the ballroom into a private alcove. His hands shook as he showed me an aged document, so old the ink had faded to brown. Your mother, he said quietly, wasn't just any Omega, Ilera. She was Lyanna Thornawood. Daughter of the Alpha of Shadow Ridge Pack. The world tilted. That's impossible. My mother died when I was 10. She was Omega, she was weak. She was cursed. Damon pointed to notations in the margins. Blood magic. Same kind used in the pact between our packs. Someone bound her wolf, made her appear Omega, hid her true nature. His eyes met mine. And according to this, the blood pact wasn't just about territory or war. It was a marriage alliance. My hands went numb. What? 25 years ago, Shadow Ridge and Blackthorn agreed to unite the packs through marriage. The firstborn daughter of Shadow Ridge's Alpha would marry the firstborn son of the Blackthorn heir when she came of age. Damon's expression was grim. That daughter was your mother. But she ran away, fell in love with someone else, your father, and hid you to protect you from the pact. But if she was the promised bride, and she's dead. Then the pact transfers to her heir, a new voice said. We spun. Marcus emerged from the shadows, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a man I'd never seen, tall, silver-haired, with eyes like winter ice and the unmistakable bearing of an alpha. Hello, cousin, the man said, looking at me with possessive satisfaction. I'm Kane Thornawood, Alpha of Shadow Ridge Pack and heir to the Blood Pact. His smile was cold as death. And you, Elara, are my promised bride. I've come to collect what was sworn to me. Behind him, dozens of wolves melted from the shadows, all bearing the Shadow Ridge mark, all radiating power. Marcus moved to Kane's side. I told you she was special, my lord. Shadow Walker bloodline, just as the old texts promised. Indeed. Kane's gaze raked over me like I was property. The pact is clear. Elara Thornawood will return with me to Shadow Ridge, and our union will finally complete the alliance that was interrupted a generation ago. He looked past me to where Cade would be in the ballroom. Tell your Alpha King that he can keep his crown. But the girl is mine. The mate bond in my chest screamed in denial, in fury, in desperate fear. Because I understood now, I'd never been the blackmailer in control. I'd been the bargaining chip all along. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The alcove suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. I stared at Kane Thornawood, my cousin, apparently, and tried to process what he'd just said. Promised bride. Blood pact. Mine. No. The word came out stronger than I felt. I'm not anyone's property. Kane's smile never reached his cold eyes. The pact disagrees. Your mother swore an oath binding her bloodline to mine. She may have run, may have hidden you, but blood oaths don't break just because they're inconvenient. He took a step closer, and I felt his alpha power press against me like a physical weight. You feel it, don't you? The call of your true pack. Shadow Ridge blood runs in your veins. You belong with us. She belongs nowhere near you, Damon snarled, moving between us. His eyes had gone wolf gold, protective instinct overriding common sense. Get out of our territory before. Marcus moved faster than should be possible, slamming Damon against the wall. Before what, little prince? Before your bastard brother starts a war he can't win? Enough. Cade's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He stood at the alcove entrance, still in his formal attire from the ball, but there was nothing civilized about the predator in his eyes. The mate bond surged as soon as I saw him, desperate and demanding. Remove your hands from my brother, Marcus. Or lose them. Marcus released Damon but didn't retreat. Behind Cade, I could see the ballroom in chaos, guests murmuring, guards mobilizing, the council members clustered together in heated discussion. Kane stepped forward with aristocratic grace. Alpha King Cade Blackthorn. How fortuitous. I was just about to request formal audience. He gestured to the shadows where his wolves waited. I am Kane Thornawood, Alpha of Shadow Ridge Pack, and I've come to invoke the blood pact made between our packs 25 years ago. There is no valid pact, Cade said coldly. Whatever agreement my father made died with him. Did it? Kane produced a scroll from his jacket, aged parchment sealed with both packs' crests in blood wax. This is the original contract, witnessed by both councils and blessed by the oracle of that time. It clearly states that the firstborn daughter of Shadow Ridge's alpha line will wed the heir of Blackthorn's allied bloodline, which, due to certain complications, now means any suitable alpha heir. His smile sharpened. The pact ensures peace between our territories. Break it, and you declare war. Cade's jaw clenched. He knew it. I could see the calculation in his eyes, the terrible political trap closing around him. The girl mentioned in that pact is dead, Cade said. Lyanna Thornawood died years ago. But her daughter lives. Kane's gaze locked on me. Blood pacts transfer through lineage. Elara Thornawood is my promised bride, and I claim my right to her. The mate bond in my chest howled in denial. I felt Cade's wolf rising, felt his barely controlled rage through our connection. He took a step toward Kane, and the temperature in the alcove dropped. She's a candidate for Luna of this pack, Cade said, each word precise and dangerous. She's under my protection and participating in sacred trials. You have no claim. I have every claim. Kane's power flared, meeting Cade's in a clash that made the air crackle. And if you refuse to honor the pact, then by pack law, I have the right to challenge you for her. Around us, wolves from both packs tensed. This was how wars started, 2 alphas, 1 female, and pride that wouldn't bend. Stop. My voice cut through their posturing. Both men turned to me, and I felt something shift inside, something that had been caged my whole life, straining against bars that were finally cracking. I'm not a prize to be won or a pawn to be traded. If this pact concerns me, then I get a say in my own fate. You don't understand what's at stake, Kane said, his tone almost pitying. If the pact breaks, hundreds will die in the war that follows. Your comfort is insignificant compared to. Power exploded out of me. I didn't mean to release it. Didn't even know it was there until suddenly every wolf in the alcove, including Damon and Marcus, dropped to their knees, heads bowed, necks bared in submission. Not to Cade. To me. My eyes burned. I could feel them changing, turning the silver of an alpha's dominance. My wolf surged forward, no longer the pathetic Omega creature I'd always known, but something massive and ancient and absolutely done with being told what to do. I said, and my voice carried harmonics of alpha command that I'd never possessed before, I get a say. Kane was the first to break free of the compulsion, his own alpha nature fighting against mine. He stared at me with something between shock and hunger. Impossible. You were Omega. We had reports. The reports were wrong. Cade had risen too, though I saw the strain it cost him to break my accidental dominance. He looked at me with new understanding, new wariness. She's alpha. Has been all along. But how? Damon gasped from the floor, still unable to stand. The Omega status, the weakness. Was induced, Marcus said. He'd managed to get to his knees, and his expression held something I couldn't quite read. By blood curse. I should know. He looked at me. I'm the one who cast it. The words hung in the air like poison. You what? I breathed. I was 17, Marcus said quietly. Barely trained in magic I had no business touching. Someone paid me well, to suppress your wolf nature. To make you appear Omega so you'd be overlooked, forgotten. I cast the curse when you were 8 years old. His throat worked. I didn't know what it would do to you. Didn't care. I was young and stupid and wanted the money. Who? Cade's voice was lethal. Who paid you? That's the interesting question, isn't it? Marcus smiled bitterly. Because the person who wanted Alara hidden and powerless was someone in this very pack. Someone who knew what she was and feared it. Before anyone could respond, Kane laughed, a cold, calculating sound. How delightful. So the Blackthorn pack has been harboring and suppressing an alpha heir for years, all while she served them as Omega. The council will love that scandal. He looked at me. Even more reason for you to come with me, cousin. Your true pack awaits. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you choose war. Kane's expression hardened. Because I won't leave without what's mine. The pact will be fulfilled, one way or another. The mate bonds suddenly flared with such intensity that I gasped. I felt Cade's wolf rising, felt his control slipping, felt the moment he stopped thinking like a king and started thinking like a mate whose bond was being threatened. She's not yours, Cade growled, and his voice was more wolf than man. She's mine. Cade, don't, I started, but it was too late. He shifted. One moment he was standing in formal attire, the next he was the largest wolf I'd ever seen, midnight black with silver streaks, eyes blazing gold, radiating such power that the walls themselves seemed to tremble. He launched himself at Kane with a roar that shook the castle. Kane shifted barely in time, his wolf silver and white, meeting Cade's attack with his own devastating power. They collided in the center of the alcove, fangs and claws tearing, and I knew with sick certainty what this meant. An alpha king attacking an alpha heir on neutral ground during a formal gathering wasn't just assault. It was an act of war. Stop them. Elder Thaddeus shouted, appearing with the other council members. Guards rushed forward, but no one was foolish enough to get between two alpha wolves fighting over a mate. Because that's what this was. Not politics, not strategy. Primal instinct. The mate bond compelling Cade to protect what his wolf recognized as his, regardless of consequences. Kane's wolves poured into the corridor, weapons drawn. Cade's guards formed defensive lines. The entire castle was about to become a bloodbath. I did the only thing I could think of. I shifted. My transformation was nothing like before. My wolf erupted from me in a surge of silver light, massive and powerful and absolutely alpha. I leaped between Cade and Kane, and my howl carried such command that both males froze mid-strike. Enough, I projected with alpha dominance that couldn't be denied. The fighting stopped. Every wolf in the corridor, alpha, beta, and lower ranks, went absolutely still, caught in the thrall of my power. I stood between the two males, meeting each of their gazes in turn. My wolf was magnificent, I realized distantly. Silver gray with markings like shadows, larger than any female wolf should be. This was what I was always meant to be, before someone decided I was too dangerous to exist. You will not fight over me like I'm a piece of meat, I commanded. Either of you. Cade shifted back to human form first, his chest heaving, eyes still wild. Elara. I need time. I looked at Kane. The pact gives me until my 25th birthday to fulfill the terms. I have 3 months. Kane shifted as well, studying me with new respect and renewed hunger. The terms state you must wed before your 25th year ends. 3 months indeed. He smiled slowly. Very well. I'll give you that time to come to terms with your destiny. But know this, cousin, if you don't come willingly, I'll come back with an army. He gestured to his wolves, and they melted back into the shadows as suddenly as they'd appeared. Marcus went with them, casting one last unreadable look at me before disappearing. The corridor emptied until only Cade, Damon, the council members, and I remained. I shifted back and someone, Clara, bless her, rushed forward with a cloak to cover me. My legs shook, exhaustion crashing over me as the adrenaline faded. Someone explain, Elder Thaddeus demanded, what in the name of the moon goddess just happened here? Blood pact, Cade said shortly. Shadow Ridge has claimed to Elara through her mother's oath. We have 3 months to resolve it or face war. Then we return the girl, Elder Thaddeus said immediately. 1 Omega, excuse me, 1 wolf, isn't worth. She's not going anywhere. Cade's tone brooked no argument. She's a candidate for Luna and under my protection. She just dominated half the pack, another council member protested. She's alpha, she could challenge you for the throne. She won't. Cade looked at me, and the mate bond hummed between us. Will you? I met his gaze steadily. I don't want your throne. I want my freedom. And answers. I turned to the council. Marcus said someone in this pack paid him to curse me. Someone wanted me weak and hidden. I want to know who. Marcus is a known liar and criminal, Elder Thaddeus said dismissively. His word means nothing. But the curse was real, Damon interjected. He'd been quiet until now, but his expression was troubled. Which means someone in our pack has been hiding an alpha heir for 17 years. That's treason. The council members exchanged glances. I could see them calculating, weighing political costs. We'll investigate, Elder Thaddeus said finally. In the meantime, Elara Thornawood, he used my real name deliberately, will continue the Luna trials. If she wins, she has legal protection as chosen Luna. If she loses. He shrugged. Then she'll have to deal with the blood pact on her own. Cold. Practical. Exactly what I'd expected. The next trial is in 3 days, another council member said. The test of wisdom. Each candidate will be presented with a moral dilemma and judged on her solution. Her smile was thin. Let's see if our newly discovered Alpha can think like a Luna. They swept away, leaving me standing in the corridor with Cade and Damon. You need rest, Cade said quietly. Your quarters were compromised once already, I reminded him. Someone shredded my dress, remember? Whoever cursed me as a child is still in this pack, and now they know I'm a threat. Then you'll stay in the Alpha wing, Cade decided. In the room next to mine. Guards at the door at all times. That's not appropriate, I protested. The other candidates will. I don't care. His eyes met mine, and the mate bond pulled tight. You nearly died tonight, twice. And I. He stopped, jaw clenching. I can't lose you. My wolf won't allow it. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. The mate bond, I whispered. Cade, what Marcus said about it being wrong. We need to see the Oracle, Damon interrupted. The real Oracle, not just her pronouncements at gatherings. If anyone can explain what's happening between you two, it's her. Cade nodded slowly. Tomorrow. After you've rested. He looked at me. Can you make it to the Alpha wing, or do you need me to carry you? I wanted to say I was fine. Wanted to maintain some dignity. But the truth was, I could barely stand. The transformation, the dominance, the sheer emotional chaos, it had drained me completely. I can walk, I said, and immediately swayed. Cade caught me, lifting me into his arms before I could protest. The mate bond sang at the contact, warmth flooding through me. Stubborn, he murmured, but there was something almost tender in his voice. He carried me through the castle corridors while Damon ran ahead to prepare the room. Wolves stared as we passed, their Alpha King carrying the Omega who wasn't in his arms like something precious. Tomorrow, this would be the talk of the entire pack. But right now, I was too tired to care. Cade placed me on the bed in a lavish guest room, the mattress soft as clouds. Clara appeared with nightclothes and warm tea, fussing over me until Cade dismissed her with quiet thanks. He lingered in the doorway, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You attacked an Alpha heir for me, I said quietly. You started a war. I know. Why? His jaw clenched. You know why. Say it. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, because you're my mate. Because my wolf recognized you from the moment we touched, even when it should have been impossible. Because the thought of him taking you. His hands clenched into fists. I would burn the world down first. The words settled into my chest, dangerous and intoxicating. Cade. Sleep, he said roughly. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. He closed the door, but I could feel him standing guard on the other side, feel the mate bond stretching between us like a golden thread. I'd barely closed my eyes when the screaming started. I bolted upright as chaos erupted in the corridors. Cade burst through my door, Damon at his heels. The Omega quarters, Cade said grimly. Something's wrong. We ran through the castle to the lower levels where the Omega wolves lived. The scene that greeted us was nightmare fuel. Omegas collapsed on the ground, convulsing, their skin turning gray, veins going black with poison. What happened? I demanded, dropping beside a young Omega girl whose eyes were rolling back in her head. It started about 10 minutes ago, a terrified wolf stammered. They all just collapsed at once. Every Omega in the pack. It's a curse, the Oracle's voice rang out. She stood at the entrance, her milky eyes seeing more than they should. Dark magic, twisted and corrupted. Someone cast a death curse, but it went wrong. She turned those unseeing eyes toward me. It was meant for you, child. For the false Omega who dared rise above her station. But the magic couldn't find you, you're Alpha now, beyond its reach. So it latched onto the nearest targets. Every Omega in the pack, I whispered in horror. They'll be dead by dawn, the oracle said flatly. Unless the caster lifts the curse or someone can absorb it. Who cast it? Cade roared. Tell me. But the oracle was already moving to the dying wolves, beginning to chant. Damon grabbed healers, organizing triage. I looked at the Omegas, innocent wolves dying because someone wanted me dead. Because I dared to be more than they wanted me to be. Around one Omega's neck, I caught the glint of silver, a necklace with a distinctive crest. Nightshade family crest. Seraphina. It was her, I said. Seraphina cursed me, and it backfired. Cade's expression went deadly. Where is she? Her quarters, a guard reported. Under house arrest since the poison attempt. We ran. But when we burst into Seraphina's rooms, we found them empty except for a single black candle still burning, wax pooled with blood, and a piece of parchment with my name written over and over in increasingly frantic script. She's gone, Damon said. Ran when the curse backfired. Then we find her and make her undo it, Cade snarled. There's no time. The oracle had followed us, impossibly fast for her age. The Omegas are dying. Within the hour, they'll all be gone. Then what do we do? I demanded. The oracle turned her milky gaze to me. You absorb the curse yourself. Your alpha blood is strong enough to withstand it, where Omega blood is not. But it will be agonizing, and there's no guarantee you'll survive. No, Cade said immediately. Absolutely not. It's not your choice. I looked at the oracle. How do I do it? Elara, don't. They're dying because of me. I shouted at Cade. Because someone hates me enough to kill dozens of innocent wolves. I won't let them die. You'll die instead, he said harshly. Maybe. Maybe not. I turned back to the oracle. Tell me how. She studied me for a long moment. Then she smiled, a strange, knowing expression. The curse seeks Omega blood. You give it alpha blood instead, willingly offered, and command it to transfer. But know this, child, when you do, you'll understand the true nature of your bond with the Alpha King. She looked between us. What you share is no ordinary mate bond. It's a blood bond, something that occurs once every 1,000 years between two alpha wolves of warring bloodlines. The room went silent. Blood bonds are legend, Damon breathed. They're supposed to be myth. Myths have truth at their core, the oracle said. Blood bonds form only when the moon goddess wills it, when two packs need to be united or completely destroyed. The bonded pair shares power, shares life force, shares destiny. Her expression grew grave. If one dies, both die. If one falls to darkness, both fall. And if they complete the bond through mating, they'll have the power to reshape pack law itself. I stared at Cade, understanding dawning. That's why the bond formed even after Marcus's rejection. That's why it's so strong. The moon goddess chose you for each other, the oracle confirmed. For good or ill, your fates are intertwined. And if you absorb this curse, Alpha King, you'll feel every moment of her pain through your bond. It may break you both. I don't care, I said. Tell me what to do. The oracle's smile widened, proud and sad at once. Very well, child. Let's see if you're strong enough to bear the weight of your true destiny. She began to chant, and I felt the darkness rising, the curse, hungry and eager, reaching for the blood it had been promised. I took Cade's hand, felt his wolf roar in denial through the bond, and stepped forward into the darkness. Together? I whispered. His grip tightened, resignation and determination warring in his eyes. Together. The curse struck like lightning, and we both screamed. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The curse hit like being ripped apart from the inside. I felt at the moment the oracle's chant completed, darkness pouring into me, seeking the Omega blood it had been designed to destroy. But I wasn't Omega anymore, and my alpha nature fought back with savage fury. It didn't matter. The curse was a living thing, twisting through my veins like liquid fire, and I screamed. Through the bond, I felt Cade's answering scream. He collapsed beside me, our hands still clasped, his body convulsing as my pain became his pain. Blood bond. We were truly connected now, sharing every sensation, every agony. Hold on, he gasped, his wolf eyes blazing as he fought to stay conscious. Elara, hold on. But the curse was too strong. I felt it spreading through my body, turning my blood to poison, my bones to ash. The oracle had been right, this would kill me. And through the bond, it would kill Cade too. Around us, I dimly heard shouting. The Omegas in their quarters were stirring, the curse leaving them as it found its new host. They would live. I would die. No, Cade's voice came through the bond, fierce and absolute. I won't let you go. His power flooded into me through our joined hands, alpha strength, pure and overwhelming. I felt his life force wrapping around mine, anchoring me, refusing to let the curse drag me under. But it wasn't enough. The curse was designed to kill, and it was very good at its job. The ritual, the oracle's voice echoed in my mind. To truly absorb the curse, you must accept it. Make it yours. Transform it from death into power. How? I was drowning, burning, being torn apart. You are Shadow Walker, she continued. Your bloodline walks between light and dark, life and death. Stop fighting the curse. Embrace it. Every instinct screamed against it. But I was out of options. I stopped struggling. Stopped fighting the darkness consuming me. Instead, I opened myself to it, let it pour into every corner of my being, and whispered the words my mother had taught me as a child, words I'd thought were just a lullaby, but now understood were something far older. From shadow born, to shadow return. Light and dark, together we burn. Death into life, pain into power. This is my gift, this is my hour. The curse shuddered inside me. Then it began to change. Darkness transformed into something else, not death, but raw power. The curse's poison became strength, its destruction became creation. I felt my alpha nature absorb it, integrate it, make it mine. My eyes snapped open, and I knew without seeing that they glowed silver-black now, the color of shadows and starlight combined. The pain vanished. In its place, power unlike anything I'd ever felt. I stood, pulling Cade up with me. He stared at me in awe, feeling through the bond what I'd just done. The Omegas, I said, my voice carrying harmonics of command. Take me to them. We ran back to the Omega quarters. The wolves there were sitting up, dazed but alive, the curse completely gone from their systems. When they saw me, they gasped. I could only imagine what I looked like, power radiating from every pore, eyes glowing with absorbed darkness. You saved us, the young Omega girl whispered. You took the curse meant for you and saved us all. No one else dies tonight, I said firmly. I swear it. A commotion at the entrance. The entire pack council had arrived, along with what looked like half the pack. They'd heard about the curse, about the dying Omegas, about what I'd done. Elder Thaddeus pushed through, his face mottled with rage. Unnatural. That power, its dark magic, corrupted. It's alpha magic, Cade cut him off coldly. She absorbed a death curse to save pack members. Show some gratitude. Gratitude? Another council member spat. She's destabilizing everything. First she forces her way into the Luna trials, then we discover she's been a hidden alpha all along, and now she's using dark magic. She's dangerous. She's powerful, a voice called from the crowd. She's what we need. She'll destroy us all, another shouted back. The crowd was dividing, I realized. Some saw me as a threat, others as salvation. The pack was fracturing along old fault lines, those who clung to tradition versus those desperate for change. Enough. Cade's alpha commands silenced them all. He turned to face the assembled pack, still holding my hand, the mate bond visible to anyone who knew what to look for. Elara Thornawood saved lives tonight at great personal cost. She will be treated with the respect due to. Due to what? Elder Thaddeus interrupted. Your mate. You've made that clear enough, Alpha King. Breaking protocol, showing favoritism, starting a war with Shadow Ridge, all for an Omega who isn't even Omega. She's a candidate for Luna, Cade said, his voice dangerous. The trials aren't complete. The trials are a formality at this point. Thaddeus smiled coldly. Everyone knows you've chosen her. But the question remains, has the pack chosen her? Or more importantly, he paused dramatically. Has the moon goddess? Before I could respond, the crowd parted. Kane Thornawood strode through, Marcus at his side, followed by at least 50 Shadow Ridge wolves. How touching, Kane drawled. The Alpha King playing savior. But we have more pressing matters. He fixed his cold gaze on me. The blood pact, cousin. 3 months, you said. But I've been informed of recent developments. His smile was predatory. Dark magic. Unstable power. Some might say you're not fit to wed anyone, that you should be put down like the rabid wolf you're becoming. That's not, I started. Unless, Kane continued smoothly, you come with me now. Shadow Ridge has experience with powerful wolves. We can train you, control you, help you master what you've become. He extended his hand. Come willingly, fulfill the pact, and I'll ensure you're treated well. Refuse, and I invoke the Council's own concerns about your stability as grounds to take you by force. You have no authority here, Cade snarled. Don't I? The blood pact gives me certain rights. And if the Pack Council agrees that Elara is dangerous. Kane looked at the council members. Well, then I'd be doing everyone a favor by removing the threat. I felt the trap closing. Kane was giving the council an out, let him take me, and their problem disappeared. They'd never have to deal with an alpha who didn't fit their hierarchy, who challenged their control. The council will need to deliberate, Thaddeus began. The council will do nothing, a new voice said. Damon stepped forward, and something in his expression made my blood run cold. Gone was the charming rebel, the unlikely ally. In his place stood someone calculating and dangerous. Brother, Cade said warily. Stand down. No. Damon looked at me, and I saw genuine regret in his eyes. I'm sorry, Elara. I do care about you, more than you know. But this pack is dying, and Cade's outdated rule is killing it. We need change. Real change. Damon, I whispered. What did you do? I made a deal. He gestured to Kane. Shadow Ridge and Blackthorn, united under new leadership. A leadership council instead of one Alpha King. Progressive, modern, fair. His gaze shifted to Cade. I've been working with Kane for months, planning this. The blood pact was our leverage. We knew Elara would bring everything to a head. Cade went absolutely still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. You betrayed your own pack. I'm saving it, Damon said earnestly. Cade, you're a good alpha, but you're bound by tradition. You can't see that the old ways are destroying us. But Elara, he looked at me again. She could be the symbol we need. An Omega who became Alpha. Someone who represents change. With her as a figurehead queen, we could unite both packs, reform the entire system. A figurehead, I repeated flatly. A puppet. A queen, Damon corrected. Honored, protected, powerful. Just not in charge. He spread his hands. Isn't that better than war? Better than execution? You'd be saving both packs. By betraying Cade and accepting bondage to you and Kane? I shook my head. That's not salvation. That's just a prettier cage. Then you choose death. Kane's voice hardened. Because those are your options, cousin. Come with us peacefully, or we take you by force and slaughter anyone who stands in our way. His wolves surged forward, weapons drawn. Cade's guards formed defensive positions. The pack scattered, trying to get clear of the imminent battle. And suddenly I was done. Done with being traded, threatened, controlled. Done with men deciding my fate. Done with a system that saw me as either too weak or too dangerous, never just as myself. No, I said, and my voice carried alpha command that made everyone freeze. There's a fourth option. One none of you considered. I stepped into the center of the room, power radiating from me in waves. The absorbed curse had changed something fundamental. I was stronger now, more than I'd been even after breaking free of the suppression. I was fully realized, fully alpha, fully me. Under ancient pack law, I said clearly, any wolf may challenge for leadership through right of conquest. Strength to strength, will to will, alpha to alpha. I turned to Cade, my heart breaking even as I said the words. I, Elara Thornawood, challenge Cade Blackthorn for leadership of this pack. Shock rippled through the crowd. Cade's eyes went wide. I don't challenge to destroy you, I continued, holding his gaze. I challenge to change you. To change everything. This pack needs two alphas, not one king and his mate, but equals. Partners. A new structure for a new age. I spread my arms, addressing everyone. I don't want to replace Cade. I want to rule beside him. And if he's truly the leader this pack needs, he'll be strong enough to share power instead of hoarding it. This is insanity, Elder Thaddeus sputtered. There's never been a dual alpha leadership. Because no one's been brave enough to try, I shot back. But you all saw what just happened. You saw me absorb a death curse and transform it into power. You know what I am now, what I've always been, hidden and suppressed. Shadow Walker. An alpha born from Omega status. I am the change you've all been afraid of, and I'm not asking permission anymore. I looked at Kane. The blood pact is void. I'm not going with you. If you want war, you'll have it, but not the war you expected. Then I turned back to Cade. But first, I have to prove I'm worthy. Fight me. Show the pack what I really am. And if you win, I swallowed hard. If you win, I'll accept whatever judgment you decree. But if I win, we rule together. Equal partners. Changing pack law forever. Through the bond, I felt his shock, his fear, his reluctant pride. He understood what I was doing, forcing the pack to see me as a true alpha, not a threat or a pawn. Giving them a choice between the old ways and something new. The arena, Cade said quietly. Tomorrow at dawn. Before all assembled wolves. No, I said. Now. Tonight. Let's end this. His eyes searched mine. You understand what you're asking? A challenge fight is to submission or death. I understand. I met his gaze steadily. Do you? For a long moment, we stared at each other. Then Cade smiled, a real smile, fierce and proud and utterly without fear. To the arena, he announced. All pack members, attend. You're about to witness history. The crowd surged toward the massive arena at the heart of the castle grounds. I walked beside Cade, our hands still clasped, the mate bond singing between us with anticipation and dread. You could destroy me, he murmured. Take everything. I could, I agreed. But I won't. Because destroying you would destroy part of myself. That's what blood bonds mean, isn't it? We're two halves of the same whole. Then let's show them what that means. The arena was ancient stone, circular, large enough for hundreds to watch from the tiered seating. Torches blazed around the perimeter, turning night into day. The entire pack crowded in, Blackthorn wolves on one side, Shadow Ridge wolves on the other, the council and visiting dignitaries in the honored seats. The oracle stood at the center, waiting. "This is a formal challenge for leadership," she announced, her voice carrying unnaturally. "Elara Thornawood versus Cade Blackthorn. The fight continues until one submits or dies. There will be no interference. The moon goddess herself will judge." She turned to me. "Before you begin, child, know this, I have one more truth to reveal." I tensed. "What truth?" "Marcus's curse did more than suppress your alpha nature. It also suppressed Cade's ability to recognize his true mate." She looked between us. "You've been bonded since you first met, when you arrived at this castle as a 10-year-old child. The mate bond tried to form then, young, immature, but present. The curse blocked it, made Cade blind to what you were to him. Made you invisible to the one person who should have seen you clearest." The words hit like a physical blow. I looked at Cade and saw the same devastating realization in his eyes. "All these years," I whispered. "You were always yours," he finished roughly. "And I never knew. You served in my castle, suffered rejection from Marcus, lived in pain, and I never saw you. Never felt what I should have felt. The curse is broken now," the oracle said. "The bond is complete. And what you do here tonight will shape not just your pack, but pack law itself for generations to come. Choose wisely." She stepped back, leaving us alone in the center of the arena. I faced Cade across 10 feet of sand. "My mate. My equal. My destiny. I don't want to hurt you," I said. "You already have," he replied. "By making me wait 17 years to know you." His eyes blazed gold. "Now show me what I've been missing." We shifted simultaneously. His wolf was massive black with silver streaks, pure alpha dominance made flesh. Mine was silver gray with shadow markings, slightly smaller but radiating that strange dark power I'd absorbed from the curse. We circled each other, and the crowd held its collective breath. Then we attacked. It was brutal from the first strike. Cade was stronger, more experienced, trained for combat since birth. But I was faster, more unpredictable, and I fought with the ferocity of someone who had everything to prove and nothing left to lose. We crashed together in a tangle of fangs and claws. He slammed me into the ground. I used the shadow walking ability to melt away and reappear behind him, raking claws down his side. He roared, whirled, caught me by the throat. For a moment, I hung in his jaws, feeling his strength, knowing he could end this with one bite. "Do it," I projected through the bond. "If you can." He released me, and I knew why. The bond wouldn't let him kill me any more than I could kill him. We were connected, intertwined, unable to destroy what we'd become to each other. But we could hurt each other. And we did. The fight raged for what felt like hours. We were both bleeding, both exhausted, both pushed to our absolute limits. The crowd shouted encouragement or demands, but I barely heard them. There was only this, the two of us, testing each other, pushing each other, proving ourselves. Finally, we both collapsed in the center of the arena, too wounded to continue, too stubborn to submit. I shifted back to human form, my body covered in cuts and bruises. Cade did the same, his chest heaving, blood streaming from a dozen wounds. "Draw," I gasped. "We're equals." "Proven." "Equals," he agreed. Then, impossibly, he smiled. "You magnificent, infuriating, absolutely perfect woman." He pulled me to him despite the pain, despite the watching crowd, despite everything. His lips found mine in a kiss that was part claiming, part surrender, entirely devastating. The mate bond exploded between us. I felt it complete, truly complete, as his mouth moved against mine. Power surged through us both, the blood bond fully manifesting, making us stronger together than we'd ever been apart. My wounds began healing rapidly. Through the bond, I felt his doing the same. When we finally broke apart, we were both glowing, literally glowing, with silver gold light that had nothing to do with wolf eyes and everything to do with magic. The oracle laughed, delighted. Blood bond consummated through equal combat. I've never seen it before, but the old text spoke true. You are bonded in every way now, in blood, in spirit, in power. You share life force, share strength, share rule. She raised her arms to the stunned crowd. Behold your leaders. Alpha King Cade Blackthorn and Alpha Queen Alara Thornawood, first of their kind. Dual rule, equal power, united by the moon goddess herself. The Blackthorn pack erupted in cheers, not all of them, but enough. The younger wolves, the ones who'd been waiting for change, howled their approval. Even some of the older pack members looked intrigued rather than horrified. The council members had no choice but to bow. I'd proven myself alpha. I'd fought Cade to a draw. And I'd done it all while saving pack members and surviving a death curse. I'd earned this. Kane stood in his section of the arena, his expression unreadable. Finally, he inclined his head. The blood pact is satisfied, he said formally. A Thornawood and a Blackthorn heir, united. Not through the marriage my ancestor intended, but united nonetheless. His eyes narrowed. But know this, cousin, Shadow Ridge will watch your rule carefully. One mistake, and we'll come for what we're owed. Try it, I said pleasantly. And see what two fully bonded alphas can do. He smiled coldly, then signaled his wolves to withdraw. Marcus went with them, casting one last look of regret over his shoulder before disappearing into the night. Damon was arrested by guards, his betrayal proven, his plot exposed. As they dragged him past, he caught my eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I truly am. But I still think you'll change things for the better. Even if it's not the way I planned. You should have trusted me to do it my way, I replied. Instead of trying to control me like everyone else. He nodded, accepting the truth, and let the guards take him to the dungeons to await judgment. Seraphina was declared officially exiled, her family's privileges revoked. Word would go out, anyone harboring her would face pack justice. And me? I stood in the arena beside Cade, our hands clasped, our wounds healing, our bond complete and absolute. The pack knelt, not just to him, but to both of us. Alpha King and Alpha Queen, they murmured. Blood bonded. Moon blessed. Cade raised me up beside him, and we faced our pack together. Equal. Partners. The first Omega-born Alpha Queen in history, ruling beside a king who'd been blind to his mate for 17 years. We had a lot of work to do. Laws to change, traditions to challenge, enemies to face. But we'd face them together. Ready to rewrite history? Cade murmured. I squeezed his hand, feeling the bond hum with contentment and determination. I've been ready my whole life. Together, we left the arena, not as two separate alphas competing for dominance, but as something entirely new. Something the world had never seen before. And in the shadows beyond the torchlight, I could have sworn I heard the moon goddess herself laughing with approval. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in my life, I had true power. True partnership. True choice. And I was never going to be invisible again. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.